how do you create more willingness in your horse? Or how do you make them more dependable, more responsive, and deepen your connection and bond with them? The best way to do this is not necessarily easy, but it's definitely quite simple, and that is to build trust and respect with your horse. And it's actually something you can start the very next time you're together. I'm going to tell you in this video 3 simple things, again, not easy, but simple things that you can do right away to start building and cultivating more trust and respect with your horse so that you can have that really lovely connection that you're seeking. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Ruby. I'm a whole horsemanship coach, which means that I help horses and humans just like yourself to be the healthiest and happiest that they can be and develop this really beautiful bond and connection. First off, I want to talk about why trust and respect are so important when it comes to our horses. And the biggest thing is that horses are social animals. We used to think that horses were in these herds that were very hierarchical in structure, and they tend to have one stallion or one male horse. And we used to think that that was because that was like he was in charge and all the other mares were below him. And actually now we know that that's not the case, that really it's more of a democratic style leadership between the mares. And this is really fascinating in so many ways. And I feel like I say this in every video, but I could totally make a whole video just on that alone. But what's important about that for this topic is that value of trust and respect is so important for our horses, because that's how they connect and bond and communicate with each other, and it's how they survive in the wild. So it's literally baked into their DNA that trust and respect is like first and foremost. I also want to kind of define both trust and respect. So respect first, I think we tend to have this kind of connotation that respect needs to come from a place of like, I think about like the Trunchbull in Matilda, like you will listen to me because I'm big and you're little, and I'm strong and you're weak. And that's not at all what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is the kind of respect you feel for like your friend that you know will tell you the truth, even if it hurts, because they have such high integrity and they're such a good person, and you know you can rely on them and trust them no matter what's coming, if that makes sense. So that's the kind of trust and respect we want to develop with our horses. And it's a little bit harder to do, I think, often than the I'm big and you're little and I'm weak, I'm strong and you're weak. But it's so much more valuable because this one only works as long as they're afraid of you. But if they're no longer afraid of you, you don't have anything left. Where the trust that's built and the respect that's built through time and consistency based on your integrity and your reliability is also going to cultivate integrity and liability in reverse in your horse, which is so much more meaningful. And that brings me to my next really key important point, which is that a horse that feels like you trust and respect them will also be a horse that is worth you trusting and respecting, if that makes sense. So it goes both ways. You both have to trust and respect each other in order for the relationship to work. Okay, so 3 things that you can do starting today to build trust and respect with your horse. The very first and probably most important is to be consistent and predictable. What this means is when you put your leg on and the horse goes forward, you take your leg off every time without fail. There's never a time that you're going to put your leg on that doesn't mean go forward, and that you're not then going to take your leg off when the horse actually listens. So that's a really fundamental example, but essentially the more we can be predictable in our actions and reactions, the more our horse will know what to expect from us and the more they'll be able to trust us. If we're all over the map and like sometimes we use leg first, but sometimes we use spur and sometimes we use a whip and sometimes we use our voice, our horse is going to be like, what do they want from me? How much do they want from me? I'm not really sure what to deliver. And that makes us less trustworthy and less respectful. I often use this example with the kids that I teach where I say like, okay, if your mom told you go clean your room, but she also put a plate of cookies in front of you, you would be kind of confused. Like, well, are we having a snack and eating cookies right now? Or am I supposed to go clean my room? I'm not really sure. But if your mom said, hey, look, I just made this plate of cookies and I'm so excited to share it with you, but before that, I need you to go clean your room. And when you're done, we'll sit down and eat these cookies together. Now that's really clear. And you know exactly what it is that your mom wants from you. So when we are riding our horses, we need to think the same way. We need to think about how can I communicate as clearly as possible what I want from my horse? And then how can I let them know once they've done that, that they did the right thing, and be as consistent and predictable with that method all the time as much as possible. The second thing you can do to help build more trust and respect with your horse is to have what is in the kind of parenting space known as wants nothing time. I think this was originally coined by Magda Gerber. I'm a mom to toddlers, so this is just something that feels like really relevant to me, but if you're not, I totally get it. I'll explain. So wants nothing time is the time that you spend with your kid, or in this case, your horse, where you're not asking anything of them. You're just being together and bonding with no agenda, which I know sounds really basic, but honestly, I think it's something we overlook a lot with our horses, especially when we get hooked on some kind of goal or plan or something we're striving toward. We tend to forget this like key piece of our relationship, which is just actually being together and enjoying each other. So some ways you could do this would be just having a little extra grooming time where you're not necessarily even trying to get your horse clean. You're just trying to like find the spots where they're extra itchy and give them a little extra time there, or maybe give them a little massage or braid their tail just for fun, not because you have anywhere to be. You could also just sit with them in their stall and like read a book or not read a book or whatever. You could go for a long walk with no real agenda, just a hand walk to see the sights and get some fresh air. Things like this where you can really just be with your horse really help to deepen your relationship. The one thing I will say is during this time, you are still allowed to hold your boundaries, and that's part of practice number one, which is to be consistent and predictable. You still have to have your same boundaries and limitations with your horse during this wants nothing time. So just because it's wants nothing time doesn't mean that your horse then gets to be pushy or mouthy or whatever else. If those are normally boundaries that you have, you get to hold those during this time as well. The third and final thing that I'll leave you with today is that you can ask your horse to push their limits gently. So the way I like to think about this is as bank deposits. With our relationship with our horse, almost everything we do for them or ask of them is either a deposit into a bank or is a withdrawal from that bank. And different things either deposit or withdraw more currency. An example would be when you spend this wants nothing time with your horse, you're putting in a pretty big deposit. When you ask your horse for something and give them the same reaction, you put your leg on, the horse goes forward, you take your leg off, that's a deposit. These cats are all over. Come on, scoot. When you ask something big of your horse, like you go to a show or you ask them to pass something that's scary or spooky, that's a pretty big withdrawal, and you have to have quite a bit in the bank already to be able to even make that withdrawal. However, if you make that withdrawal and it all turns out okay, you actually are then putting even more back into the bank. So let's go back to the example of taking your horse past something spooky. If, let's say, there's like a plastic bag stuck to a tree and you have to walk past it, that's pretty scary to many horses, maybe not all, but many. When you're walking past it, if you already have enough in your bank and your horse knows that they can trust you and respect you, they might be afraid of it, but they're going to look to you for comfort, and that's going to be what's going to get them past it okay. And when they get past it and they take that big deep breath out and they do the you know that they're okay and they know that they're okay, that is a huge deposit back into the bank account. However, if you're walking past it and the bag flies off and hits your horse in the face and your horse freaks out and rears and spooks and turns and runs back to the pasture, now there's been a big withdrawal and it's not replaced. There's a big empty void in your bank account and you have to find a way to fill that back up. Does that make sense? So this weekend, I want to challenge you to do two things. One, find some ways to make some deposits into your bank account with your horse. So think about wants nothing time. Think about little things that you can do for them that are just for them, that are just building your relationship and your rapport. Then I want you to think about one little withdrawal that you know will turn out okay, but you can push your horse. So ask them to learn something new, or expose them to something different that they haven't seen before, or help them through a scary situation. Make sure that you know for sure you'll get through it okay without any big blow-ups, because if there's a big blow-up, you're not replacing that money in your bank account. But if you can get through it okay, you know that you're actually adding to it. So think small, little tiny push, little tiny withdrawal, and big return. If that was helpful, I hope that you will like and subscribe, because the best way for you to help me with my mission of sharing this information with as many horse people as possible is by interacting with this video. And until next time, I hope that you'll hug your horse for me.